Hello friends, welcome. Friends, in India, recently you might have noticed that there have been a disproportionate level of spam calling, which is happening from unknown numbers who are threatening the people of India with dire consequences if their demands are not met. These numbers are camouflaging themselves as emanating from genuine government agencies like Telecom Regulatory Authority of India, custom officials, and then various other agencies. You might have seen a lot of incidents where people have reported and they have also lost a lot of money. Now, in spite of the government doing all that they can, they are not able to control this phenomena. So you must be wondering what is going on. Why the government, after having so many regulations, TRAI came out with so many regulations, they are not able to control this phenomena. That is why I thought of writing an article and then subsequently following that with a video to make you understand that what is the problem that we are facing in our country, why this spam calling has suddenly become so ubiquitous and so intense, and why Indian government is not able to control it, and what needs to be done in order to contain this phenomena. That's the whole gist of this presentation. Now, before I take you through the details of this presentation on the step as to what is causing this problem, what are the difficulties that the government of India is facing, what are the possible implementation scenario to contain this phenomena, let me make you understand what is the typical network structure, technically how a telecom network works. Because without understanding how a telecom network works, you will not be able to appreciate what we can do and why this phenomena has become so rampant. So this is a diagram in front of you, which actually has an India map, just to make it a little bit realistic, so that you can understand where the problems are and how the networks are working and how the call is getting completed. So I've drawn this diagram. Now, if you look at this diagram, you will notice that this diagram has got different icons. One is green icon, another is icon which are blue, which are drawn in a cloud shaped manner. Now, these green icons are conventional telecom exchanges. What are those exchanges that we typically use? We have been calling the mobile phones. Everybody has been using mobile phone to make circuit switch calls. So if you want to make a circuit switch call using a mobile phone, these green boxes are used. And these green boxes are spread all over the country, where the calls will get aggregated and then will get terminated into an aggregation point from which the calls are getting routed outside the country. For example, let's say if you are making an international call using this particular switch right in front of you, then what will happen, and you are located here, then your call is going to go through like this and it will hit an international trunk exchanges, right, which is maybe located in Delhi or somewhere, and then through this it is going to go outside the country and it will go to a country. For example, if you are dialing somebody in Afghanistan, Pakistan or China, there will be a switch there where the call is going to get terminated and through which it will get terminated to a local customer there. That's how the call basically happens. And within the country, if you want to call, you can basically connect directly from here and it will get connected like this. So normal calling through a conventional network happens in this manner, which I have described, because they are all connected with each other. Now, there is another way of calling, which is using the internet. Now, the internet uses all these cloud-based networks that you are seeing in front of you. These are cloud-based networks. These are not conventional telephony network because they are used for dual purpose, sending data as well as making voice call, which are going to be primarily using the riding on the data network. Now, let's say if you want to make an internet-based calls within our country, there are two ways of making that call. The first call will get terminated into a conventional digital exchange. For example, let's say if I am sitting here and I want to use the cloud-based infrastructure of internet and I want to make a local call, then there are VoIP providers who provide the facility that you can make a VoIP call, and then what will happen, you are going to get connected to a exchange, conventional exchange, and through the conventional exchange you get routed and you will get connected somewhere here. Let's say if you are located here, you will get connected here. That's how you generally call. Another way of calling is that you make an international call. That's why the VoIP calls are so popular, because international calling has become cheaper using VoIP. So what you will do, you are going to enter here, go to a IP gateway, and through that IP gateway go outside the country. And then you terminate on another cloud network, and then from another cloud network you can directly terminate directly to a customer, or there is another way you can basically terminate to another exchange, conventional exchange. Through that you can basically terminate to a conventional mobile or a fixed line customer, right? That's how you can basically make calls. Now, why I am explaining you all this, the reason I am explaining you all this is that you will understand how spamming is happening in India and how fraudulent activity is happening in India using this VoIP phenomena, which is a recent phenomena through which calling has become much more seamless and flexible. Now, let's say anybody wanting to make call within the country, right? Within this network of India, they fall under the jurisdiction of our country. Means the regulator will have full control. Every caller will be having a KYC. So he will be monitored by our agency in case he does anything fraudulent activity. He can be caught by somebody very clearly because his location, his identity is all verified before he latches onto, he's allowed to enter the network, right? But let's say for a VoIP, if anybody is using a VoIP network, means dialing through a computer or a VoIP terminal, he doesn't have to take the permission of Indian authorities or do a KYC, in the Indian system in order to latch onto the network. What he can do? He can basically choose a cloud service provider who is internationally located. Means his jurisdiction does not lie within the country. He is internationally located somewhere outside the country. Using the IP network, the internet network, he can latch on to this cloud service provider. And that cloud service provider will provide him all kinds, all kind of services as if that he is using a conventional telephone network. So what happens is that he is no longer falling under the jurisdiction of the Indian regulators because this guy is located somewhere else, and that person is providing service and is falling under a different jurisdiction which is not controlled by the Indian regulatory authorities. Now what happens is that the KYC can be done, but the KYC will be very loosely done KYC because you do not fall under because this cloud provider does not fall under the jurisdiction of India and doesn't fall under any of the regulatory requirements of Indian jurisdiction for KYC. He might not even do a KYC. Okay. Now, even he does a KYC, there will be, the guy who actually is using that service will be able to get away. Let me explain how. So let's say this guy who is sitting here, he actually chooses a cloud service provider in some other country. So what happens is that using again the internet path, right? He is able to latch onto the cloud service provider. Once he latches onto the cloud service provider, then the cloud service provider is connected to the conventional digital exchange, and then through that he comes and enters our country using the conventional digital exchange, and then through that he goes and dials a particular customer. So he may be sitting right next to him, but he will follow this particular path and will enter the country using an international gateway. Now, once he enters the country using international gateway, Indian service providers who are sitting here who's managing the international gateway will consider that call as emanating out of an international country. So he is not going to basically block that call because he will not be suspecting that this call is a spam call or something else, because he is not at all sure about the KYC of the customer. He is not responsible for the KYC of the customer because this call is originated from this particular exchange which is lying in a different country. So from that, when the call enters this country, the call will be just passed through by the service provider. Once the call passed through by the service provider, using a CLI, which can be an Indian CLI because there is a possibility and the capability of the system to spoof CLIs. Means calling line identification, the number can be changed, and that number that can be used to enter the country can be an Indian number. and how this call gets passed through, because though the service provider who is managing this particular exchange or the trunk exchange which is allowing the call to enter, he could have the capability to dip into his database to check whether the person who actually is dialing from here is roaming, is an Indian customer roaming in this country or not. But he will not do it because that will be a very complex process. It will mitigate and it will dilute the quality of the call, because that database search will require a lot of time. So it will not do, and therefore the call is going to enter the system and is going to hit on to the consumer, and the consumer will not know from where the call has emanated. And that's how these calling frauds are happening. And you might have seen that the calls are emanating from Oman and various other jurisdictions, and those are being used to make all this call. Like TRAI is all over the place, all over the world, that calls will come from Oman, some call will come from Somalia. So these countries have very lax jurisdiction, and these VoIP providers are able to latch on to those numbers and dial from those countries inside our nation, and the consumers are getting fooled and spammed. Now, there could be some genuine VoIP providers who will be able to monitor these activities, and then they can block the consumers who are doing all these activities by using their services. But there is no way the Indian consumer will be able to report to this particular guy, because he does not even know that from who is the VoIP provider which has generated this call. So there is no feedback mechanism possible. Unlike in case of a conventional local call, you can give a feedback, right? So this is a spam call. You can tell somebody, there will be a reporting mechanism. But here the guy is located, there is no way you can basically do any kind of reporting. So it will be a proactive process which the VoIP provider, if he is a genuine businessman, he wants to basically maintain authenticity of his service, he will do all proactive requirements to monitor the authenticity and the fidelity of a system, but there is no feedback mechanism possible. And there could be some rogue VoIP providers who don't care, because they are only bothered about money. So let's say if a genuine VoIP provider blacklists a caller calling from our country for misusing its system, this guy can switch over to a different VoIP provider. So what you can do? Nothing you can do about it, right? So this is the basic problem of our system, that these spammers, these fraudulent providers, guys, are able to use this international system which is in a different jurisdiction, and that is why you can't you cannot solve this particular problem, contain this problem which is not within the Indian jurisdiction. Now and this is the article that I have written, which you can go through to able to understand what this is all about. You can read through this. Now let's understand that how this problem is tackled internationally, because I have explained to you why service provider cannot block this call. So how this problem is tackled internationally, because internationally also people are facing the same issue. Now internationally what has happened is, there are certain countries who have implemented a system called stir-shaken system. Now stir-shaken system is nothing but whenever a call originates from any entity or a caller, the identity of the caller is verified by the system. So you can read through it. Just let me explain to you in a very high level. Verified means authenticated, so that the originator CLI, the guy who is making the call, is the real guy who is making the call, right? So that domestically, if you implement a stir-shaken system, then nobody can spoof their number. Because why? The calling party's number is authenticated by an authenticating system. So anybody who is receiving a call from a caller knows exactly who is calling. So this is called a stir-shaken system, right? But the problem with stir-shaken system is that it can be implemented domestically. But internationally, you can't really implement such a system, because whoever is entering the system through this gateway, right? From this gateway, this particular person who is handing over this call or routing this call to this gateway, if he does not implement a stir-shaken system, then how the Indian service provider who's sitting here can authenticate that call? Because it is dependent upon the international service providers implementing the same system which he doesn't have any control of, right? So that's why this system is not foolproof. Though they have implemented, it's not really doesn't work, because unless all the countries implement the system and they have a valid or a very robust KYC mechanism of validating their customer physically, this system does not really help. Okay. So that's the issue with this particular system. Though it has been implemented, it is not working properly and it can't be implemented. Another problem with this system is that it only works with 4G and 5G system, because it requires a signaling system which is compatible only with 4G and 5G system. It is not compatible with 2G and 3G system, which uses a signaling system which is called SS7. SS7 systems are pretty old system. So it is not compatible. So that is why India cannot implement stir second system, even though this system actually has help in curbing some spam calling, because we have got lot of 2G and 3G system, and since we cannot get rid of this system, we cannot implement stir second system. Now, what could be the potential solution in case of Indian context? Now, everybody is trying different method to solve this problem. Bharti has implemented an AI-based system, and I sometimes find AI-based system pretty confusing, because sometimes genuine numbers are basically tagged as spam calling, spammers. Now, whenever I receive a call, now I am confused whether this is really a spam call or whether this is a genuine call, and I have to pick up the call because I'm not too sure, and there is no context being provided. There are no way to tell how they are verifying whether the call is a spam call or whether the call is a genuine call. So, therefore, in Indian context, what we need, or anywhere, what we need is user level contextual information. Let's say if a user is dialing from a particular state, let me just go here again in this diagram. Let's say if you are sitting here, right? You are in Mumbai, and if somebody is dialing from Rajasthan, and to you, if this service provider is able to give the location information, not the location exactly whether he is dialing from Jaipur, at least from the telecom circle he is dialing, then this guy will know that this call has originated from Rajasthan. Though the CLI or the KYC of the caller may not be foolproof, because we know that we don't have a foolproof KYC system. But the location can be very easily tagged into the calling information, just like you are able to tag spam, whether this is likely spam, etc. You can say the call originated from Rajasthan circle, or call originated from Madhya Pradesh circle, or call originated from an international gateway, right? If the location information to a circle level can be provided to the receiver of the call, then he will be empowered with more contextual information to deal with that particular call. That is the solution. The solution is not to mark a call as spam using in a very opaque system which we don't have any understanding. You simply tag that system as AI. What AI is doing, we don't even know. You simply tag the location of the call, because the origination of the call is known by the service provider, and he knows the call originated from this location. He may not be able to verify the user. The KYC may be loose. It may not be foolproof KYC done, maybe fraudulent KYC. But when you are receiving TRAI call, suppose somebody is dialing, saying I am TRAI, but is dialing from, let's say, Assam, you can immediately disconnect the call and say that guy is making a fool of me, right? So TRAI won't be calling from Assam. TRAI will be calling from Delhi, right? That is the system that we should be implementing in India. That is a much more easier system to implement to deal with this spam calling, right? Rather than basically going around and beating around the bush and doing some kind of, AI, AI is very much, fashion, it's a fashion statement, right? It doesn't solve problem. The problem is to be solved by doing reasonable, solutions which are country centric, which can be implemented given the problems that we have in our country. We do not have a foolproof KYC system. How many calls you are going to block? It is not possible. So the conclusion is very, very simple. The challenges posed by spam and fraudulent calls in India are deeply rooted in both technology and regulatory complexity. And the legacy 2G, 3G infrastructure reliant on SS7 cannot adopt those stir-shaken systems that I am talking about. While the global initiative or like stir-shaken system has proven very valuable, But India's unique telecom landscape demand more immediate and pragmatic measure. Providing user-based location context, such as indicating the caller originating circle, whether it is entered through an international gateway, offers simpler and effective way to empower the user with information, contextual information, so that he can deal with that call, right? We don't have to mark it as spam or not. Let the user decide whether it is a spam call or not. It is much more transparent, easily implementable, and it leads to less confusion. Okay. So friends, I hope that you probably understood what I'm talking about. Right. And let's hope that this issue get resolved, because a lot of people are getting, caught in digital arrest, where, people are calling as if that they are some police commissioner calling from somewhere, etc. Location information on a circle basis can really help. Right. Thank you very much, friends, for your time. I hope that this video was useful, and you can read my article. I'm going to put a link in the description, and let me know your comments and what you think about this issue. Thank you very much for your time.